I want to read you a little something that I wrote yesterday. A lot of the refugees coming from Afghanistan will be inbred heroin addicts with no respect whatsoever for women's rights. That's a pretty powerful comment. Um, and I feel a little bit foolish for having said it, actually, but only a bit. They were traumatized in Afghanistan and will suffer serious culture shock when they come to Canada and find that women don't behave the way they expect them to. It is essential that they be screened properly, and I don't trust this government to do it. They'll be very difficult to integrate and will quickly retreat into ethnic ghettos where they will live as resentful dependents. All dependents are resentful. They will, in all likelihood, remain Islamic fundamentalists. Okay, the inbred thing is true. If you have a country like Afghanistan that's, 120 tribes, essentially, that quite often don't get along with each other. Well, a tribe is a small group of people, isn't it? And so you have inbreeding, and that causes medical problems, and that causes psychological problems. Um, so, but what I'd said was a lot of the refugees coming in will be inbred heroin addicts. Inbred, very good likelihood, but heroin addicts, I don't think that so much anymore. Because what happened in Afghanistan was that the money that was poured into it, especially or only from the United States, was very often stolen by the elite military. And my guess is that, given how elitist, um, I hate to say this, but the Trudeau government is, my guess is that what they're going to be doing is that they're going to be targeting the elite commander types, who maybe are in more risk, actually. It depends on how quickly the Taliban could get them to join their side. Because if the American military has been paying these people, then they know about the military equipment that the United States left behind. And they would have connections, and they would have a lot of insight into the way that the United States works. So most likely the Taliban will scare the shit out of a bunch of them, kill a bunch, and then absorb them, because that would be the strategically smart thing to do. Um, so what Canada is going to do is it's going to bring in the elite military, and I imagine some good journalists too, right? Um, some people that are really fighting for democracy. I just don't doubt that. Um, but if they're from the military, they will likely be corrupt, because that's one of the reasons that it didn't work. The United States paid the Afghan government, and they had what's called ghost soldiers. So they'd collect quite a lot of money, right, for 10 soldiers, and there would only be one. That's a big part of the reason why you can't uh, you can't win in that country, and it's foolish to try, probably. And yeah, that's the way it goes. Okay, so at one point in here, I said that they have no respect for women. Wow. Um, when the communists tried to invade Afghanistan, their goal was depopulation, just depopulation, genocide. They're communists, right? What do you expect from communists? They were just trying to just flatten it all out for the mineral resources and things like that, probably. Um, and they did things like they attached little bombs to little things that flew around that looked like toys for kids to play with. The communists put bombs in little toy drones for kids to pick up and blow their face off. Communists. And what happened was that the women and children were sent out of the country. I think that there were 6 million of them, sent mostly to Saudi-funded madrasas in Pakistan. So they're Wahhabis. Russia's trying to kill everybody in the country. Those men sent women and children to Pakistan, where unfortunately Wahhabism was pounded into their heads. And that's the worst kind of Islam there is. If it's not Islam, it's evil. That means books, music, television shows, everything. I think those are the guys that blew up the Buddha statue. Anyway, so those children were sent out of Pakistan, and when they grew up, who do you think that they became? The Taliban. Taliban is Arabic for student. That's an incredible history, if you ask me. So, there's all this business about them not respecting women, and I totally believe that. But I don't know, it just surprises me that at one time they sent all the women and children out of the country so that they could be alone to fight the Russians, and they won. They beat the British before that. The United States helped them with military equipment to fight the Russians. So this is the second time that the United States has armed the Taliban. Those are some... those guys have focus, they have determination, they're clever as hell. And, wow. I mean, I think the Taliban was like 75,000 like real soldiers against 300 United States funded and equipped government soldiers. Wow. Heroin addiction is rife in Afghanistan. So we have this idea in Canada, of course, okay, Justin Trudeau's right there, right? He knew, or should have known, because there was a lot of information, that Afghanistan was going to be a horrible mess. He should have just been encouraging Canada to just get out, right? Long before this, he had enough information to make that determination, although it has to be admitted, I guess some other countries like Britain and France didn't. Where was I? Maybe I forgot. Britain, France, and Germany are sending people outside of the Kabul airport to pick up their citizens and bring them back to the airport. Canada's not doing that. We look like cowards. When you read the papers, it's still about all of the Afghani people that have been flown out. I just saw a flight, I don't know if it was to Canada, probably to Britain. It's all women. Perfect. That's what you want to do. Yeah, we'll be bringing in corrupt, high-ranking military. So I think an interesting angle on it right now is to just watch the CBC and look at the things that they're covering, and ask yourself, isn't there more interesting things that they could be covering? Like, I watched it last night, and they devoted as much time to Haiti as they did to Afghanistan. And I'm sorry, Haiti right now doesn't influence Canada. It's not the big question. What they should be asking is, how are the refugees going to be screened? I suppose there's some sort of screening process, but I don't know what it is because they don't talk about it. The Canadian government either doesn't know or thinks that we shouldn't know how many Canadians are left there, and so they won't tell us. They're not telling us that. They said that there's no way they're going to be able to bring everybody that they want back, and so they don't specify citizens or Afghanis. So, like, they don't care. Nobody seems to care if the goal is to get Canadian citizens back or not. And what is his plan for refugee settlement? There was the refugee rush a long time ago, and what he said was, we don't want the church supporting refugees so much. We want to hand that over to the government because it works so well. I mean, he's an authoritarian. He wants to control everything. And so he had a program that was working. If you've got a church group bringing in refugees and trying to integrate them into the society, the refugees do better, right? So what is he going to do? We should know that this time. The CBC should be reporting on that. What are the experts saying? There's the whole thing about listen to the experts and all that, right? So what are the experts saying? Which way, how should you do it? Aren't we the people who are so proud we listen to the experts? What are the experts saying about this? We already have Afghani refugees. How's the integration going? And how is it that feminist and gay and transgender groups aren't speaking up and saying, hey, look, these guys might be dangerous to us? But they don't say that. Okay, so I'm watching still to see if the CBC is going to say anything at all about the fact that the FBI found no evidence of a planned insurrection. So the narrative that's been going around, the words that are going to be floating around in people's heads, you got insurrection, January 6th, white supremacists, Trump, right? All of these kinds of things. Terror, we need to be really scared of these guys. Well, okay, we could all sigh a little sigh of relief if we understood that there was no planned effort to take over the government. If it was an insurrection, it was the stupidest one in history. And it wasn't even that. The only people that really had a kind of a plan, and it was only to break in, was the FBI. There's 8 of them, eight unindicted co-conspirators that were involved in this thing. And the only plan that they had was to get in and start I don't know. Did they kill anybody? It was a protest against an election that maybe would have gone to Biden anyway. But there was serious problems with it. The people that were there were protesting in support of democracy. A small number of them got out of hand. It became a riot. It became a really unfortunate incident. And then since then, what they've been using is that event to decrease freedom of expression if they can, right? Decrease freedom of expression, association, movement, all kinds of things. They want to characterize white people in general, especially if they're not liberals, as dangerous so that they can surveil us and reduce our freedom of speech and that kind of thing. Yeah, so I looked at it. It's, no FBI, no evidence of a planned overtake of the Canadian government. And the things that came up, I'm surprised that there isn't more on Fox News or something about this. It's probably there if I look at it. But it was all about what they were calling an insurrection 6 months ago. This is huge news that they didn't plan to take over the government. I guess the thing is that there's so many people right now who just think, well, they're lying constantly. Like, I can't get used to that. They're just lying constantly. So, media is biased everywhere. If you're going to have a government media, its purpose should be unbiased. And the CBC is definitely unbiased. Yeah, whatever.